where the density is higher. So, a critical raw material used in the production of solar panels and batteries is lithium ion. It is a mineral like coal or crude oil. It is mined. The process of extracting it is environmentally hazardous as well. But this is not usually discussed. In Chile, where it is produced more than in any other country, nearby rivers have been polluted. Protests by the citizens against pollution have been met by brute force, by security agents, violating the rights and dignity of the people. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, where cobalt, copper, and lithium ion are produced massively, there are human rights abuses on an industrial scale. There is also child labor, in addition to other forms of labor exploitation. The beneficiaries are mostly Western multinationals. The DRC government, towards the end of April 2024, hired the services of a team of French lawyers to write to Apple Corporation, the American technology giant, accusing it of benefiting from illegal actions in the eastern part of its country, where lithium ion and copper are used in manufacture of electronic gadgets like our smartphones and solar panels, as well as batteries, where they are mined. Rebels are active, very much so, in those parts of DRC. You can imagine, because the big companies that rely on this hire rebels also to be part of the business. In New York State, where the government plans to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 40% by 2030 and by 85% by 2050 from the 1990 levels through solar and wind power, there have been protests against the conversion of farmlands to solar and wind farms. There have also been protests against the destruction of biodiversity and the habitat generally. And this is in America. The most difficult and controversial issue deliberated on at the Conference of Parties, popularly known as COP28, which held in Dubai from 30th November to December 13 last year, was the fate of fossil fuels. At the end of the deliberations, participants agreed on a shift that would happen in a quote, just, orderly, and equitable manner. No date or timeline was given, but it was provided that developing economies, particularly those that depend on fossil fuels, be assisted. In doing so, the level of development and poverty of each country will be taken into consideration. We are yet to see how this is going to happen. It'll be very interesting, wouldn't it? Much as the agreement and wording of the resolutions are considered a win-win for those who wanted an immediate ban on fossil fuels and those opposed to the idea completely, it is often wondered whether the participants could have taken a more realistic, different position. The world needs environmental protection, but the world just cannot do without fossil fuel, at least for now. That's the bottom line. And that's what those who were campaigning for total elimination of fossil fuel in Europe discovered more recently. As the experience has demonstrated in just the last 2 years, the European nations that have been in the forefront for clean energy found themselves returning to coal-fired plants when their interests were threatened in the wake of the Russian invasion of Ukraine 2 years ago. The United States relies on fossil fuel substantially. China, India, Japan, Russia, and others still rely on these kinds of fuel. Only a handful of nations. Thank you very much. Yes. Take it. Thank you. But there's no place to place it. So only a handful of nations like Greece, Spain, and Portugal have crossed the clean energy line. At the G7 meeting of ministers responsible for the environment, climate, and energy held in Turin this last April, it was agreed that coal plants would be phased out among these nations by 2035, but that the participants were realistic enough to provide that those which could not meet the target should be allowed to continue to use coal-fired plants on condition that it would not compromise their commitment on bringing down global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade by 2030. So what some countries would do is to have the companies that are emitting a lot of carbon to buy carbon credit. For example, the big forests in the Amazon, they keep the forest and they sell the carbon. It's actually traded on the stock exchange in New York. I wish we would trade something like that here in Nigeria, because there we have a lot of forests. So it is unlikely that Japan can afford to stop using coal by 2035. Germany has set a 2030 deadline, but there is no guarantee it will make it. The G7 member nations that campaigned for the phasing out of coal plants by 2035 are those which have already abandoned coal plants or used them minimally. In other words, what the world saw at the recent G7 ministers meeting in Italy is self-interest everywhere and becoming the big elephant in the room. How do we go from this? So this fact should not be lost on us here in Nigeria and our government. The primary responsibility of every government is to its people, their welfare and their security. This point is worth reiterating because Nigeria seems to pay more attention to gas exports than the domestic gas market because of the prospects of huge foreign exchange earnings, which the country needs desperately. Gas producers naturally prefer to export their products because their domestic prices are regulated, subsidized, and perhaps sold at below world market in some cases, not in all cases. Besides, those who supply gas to privatized power generating companies are typically owed, especially those GENCOs, not happening in our geometric power, I must tell you. We pay our bills. The Trans-Sahara gas pipeline is being constructed with a pipeline measuring 46 to 56 inch gauge so that it can carry billions of cubic meters of natural gas from Nigeria to Europe through North Africa. One or two cynics have wondered in recent times how sustainable the project may be in the long run. This is because Europeans, as you know very well from what I've been talking about, are in the forefront and the vanguard of eliminating fossil fuel. So we have to ask ourselves, if they find alternative, will they buy our gas? By that time, we would have invested heavily on a huge pipeline. I think if you come close to any of the pipes, it's almost the height of an average human being. The way gas works is that you have to line pack the gas before anybody even uses it, which means the thousands of kilometers must be line packed. You can imagine how much gas that is before you even begin to sell the gas. So, as Nigeria plans to embark on massive export of natural gas, the country is facing severe gas shortages at home. When General Sani Abacha military regime intervened in Sierra Leone in the 1990s under the ECOWAS rubric to flush out the new military regime and restore democratic rule there, Nigeria was described by a section of the international community as a country that was exporting what it did not have, democracy, but importing what it ought to have in abundance, namely petroleum products. The description may well fit the gas sector today. Nigeria has more than 200 trillion cubic feet of untapped gas reserves. It is estimated that convertible gas is at least 139 trillion cubic feet. It is one of the world's leading countries in gas. Yet, there is not enough gas or even liquefied petroleum gas used in the kitchen. Even in Nigeria's liquefied natural gas company, that is Nigeria LNG, a major foreign earner for Nigeria that has guaranteed market, it has been operating at about 60% capacity on account of insufficient gas supply. But that company is doing very well. It's trying to build next train, Train 7. But it needs the gas. And the gas is here. We have it. But it needs to come out from the ground. The petroleum companies supplying gas to power plants are in a tighter position because they are performing suboptimal. There are now longer periods of electricity blackouts throughout the country. This is despite the spirited effort of Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the Ministry of Power and the Presidency, making a lot of effort. Matter of fact, just yesterday, I was very happy to hear that the President inaugurated 2 major gas projects in the country. One at Kwale and the other at Ohaji in Imo State. These are very positive steps. We need to have more and more of these so that we can change our direction. I believe, really, and frankly, that a state of emergency needs to be declared in the gas sector. The declaration will save the power sector and allow the government and the other stakeholders to address fundamental issues in the gas sector in a robust manner. The issues will include how to strike healthy balance between producing gas for export and gas for domestic consumption. Gas is equally needed in both markets. Now, another critical area in Nigeria's power sector is the transmission network. I believe that having the national grid the way we have it is still going to be a problem. First, it is not robust, it's not well structured. My advocacy is for multiple grids, semi-autonomous, but connected to the national grid, so that the national grid still operates and it's made more robust. It will begin to cure the regular incidents of failure of the network. When I was in government, we embarked on a project, or rather we actually got Federal Executive Council to approve what we call a super grid, a 765 kV network that will kind of ride above the existing 330 kV network. So right now Nigeria has 330 kV and 132 kV, but none of them really robust. But the 765 kV network would be very important to take power from power plants such as the Mambila that's been in the works for a while. Over 3,000 megawatts of power will come from Mambila. So the question is, which transmission infrastructure will take that power? Suppose that we finish it. Now, you need a super grid to take that power, and so that Nigeria has the ability to take power from various power plants and transmit to wherever we want it. Now, I am happy that the current Minister of Power, Chief Adebayo Adelab, is reviving this super grid. And I think we have to support him on that because it's a very important project. Our conception was that it would be done in sections by different companies so that it's not just one of these big elephant, white elephant projects that you give to one company and they just go and sit with it. The development of electric power sector has also been stalled for years because of the suspension of what we developed at that time called partial risk guarantee to support a power purchase agreement. A government that's buying power has to issue power purchase agreement to the producer of power, and that power purchase agreement must be guaranteed. You can issue sovereign guarantee, but in the case that we are talking about, we wanted to have partial risk guarantee supported by the World Bank and backstopped by Nigerian government. So we were able to do this, but only one project was completed on it. That is the Azora Edo project, 461 megawatt power plant, and then it was stopped 9 years ago. So the outcome is that for that period of time, Nigeria has not commissioned a government-sponsored power project. And you heard the president of Ghana, or president of Ghana, say that you need to be adding, he said over 12% of energy to your country year on year. Because if you're going to grow the economy, that's what you need. So, I mean, it is very clear. So if in 9 years we have not added, you can imagine. I can also tell you that because of that partial risk guarantee, at least 4 or 5 major projects had been fully developed, but stopped. So I encourage the government to reawaken those projects. They are very important. Very, very critical. So I have talked here about major current developments in energy, industry, and international, as well as the local environments. It is self-evident that nations and commercial entities are guided principally by their interests, despite their strong pledges to fight the climate change with all their might and resources. Even environmentalists who fiercely insist that poor nations shut down their fossil fuel plants to save the earth. I call them tree huggers, but they would come with patriotic stand. They take patriotic stand when their country's interests are affected directly. For instance, Greenpeace Germany in August 2022 described Germany's decision to restore coal-fired plants as bitter but inevitable. So even in the unlikely event that rich nations win themselves off fossil fuel within the foreseeable future, the earth will continue to be polluted because most developing nations do not have the resources and technical know-how to transition yet to cleaner energy. Bangladesh, a nation of 170 million people, has been building new coal power plants, and the beneficiaries are not just local people and local businesses, but also big Western firms like Walmart of the United States and Zara of Spain. Developed countries and multilateral institutions need to assist developing countries with technology, human capital development, infrastructure, and finance to grapple with the basic challenges of development. After all, the climate crisis was unleashed by the rich nations. The point, this is very, very important. The poor nations are merely the victims. Countries like Nigeria have the responsibility to remind developed nations that much as natural gas is a fossil fuel, it is actually a transition fuel. Mr. President, transition fuel, not just merely fossil fuel. That's why they bandy it and tell you that it's part of fossil fuel, so you should go and stop with fossil fuel. No. In fact, I will tell you, in Nigeria, I would say that for the next 20 to 30 years, we will continue to rely on natural gas for power production, provided that we go and invest in production of natural gas. So while the Nigerian government should be encouraged to explore more foreign markets for its resources like natural gas, sight should not be lost on the fact that charity should begin at home. In fact, an emergency, as I said, has to be declared in the domestic gas market to save the electric power sector and address other issues. The supergrid should be given priority to boost the nation's transmission infrastructure. The federal government has to resume signing power purchase agreements with appropriate guarantee instruments. The whole idea of partial risk guarantee is that it doesn't go on the balance sheet of government in the way just ordinary sovereign guarantee would. So it's a fraction of what it would have been that's in the books of government, given the credit rating of the country. So, this will help us to experience proper economic prosperity and trajectory like other emerging nations such as the BRIC nations, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, or even the CIVETs. There is such. Colombia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Egypt, Turkey, and South Africa. We're not even in that one. I believe that we can achieve all of this if we apply the willpower as a nation and the right frame of mind to change the energy equation, just like the BRIC and the CBET countries. It is up to us. Thank you very much.
I think that Professor Batinaji deserves a standing ovation. Thank you, a standing ovation for him. It's not every day that you have the opportunity to listen to that wide-ranging intellectual offering based also on experience. Well, willpower, frame of mind to address the energy question. And I'm sure that many of us will be happy that there's something called super grid, this national grid that is always giving us problems. Maybe when it becomes super, the economic prosperity that other emerging economies are enjoying, we will also have the opportunity here. Well, while our guest speaker, Professor Batinaji, was making his presentation, we had other distinguished guests joining us. The Onirisha is here, the Oni Adimula, chairman of Ojaja Pan-Africa Limited. Earlier on when I introduced Tingo Electric and Tingo Cola, well, this is part of the Ojaja Pan-Africa Limited. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, His Royal Majesty, the Oni of Ife, Alailua Adeyeye Ogunwusi, CFR, Kabiyesi. Thank you. Okay. We also have in our midst the Balogun of Ife. The Balogun of Ife is a father figure to the celebrant of today. They have a father and son relationship. Chief Alex Duduyemi, Balogun of Ife. You are welcome, sir. Oh, is Asiwaju? Oh, okay. Okay. But there was a time Chief Duduyemi was Aru. Aru Asiwaju. Okay, Aru Asiwaju of Ife. Okay. Thank you. Then we also have the CEO of Future One Africa Network, Mr. Idris Usman, in our midst. Mr. Idris Usman. Yes, I saw earlier on also Pastor Itwa Igodalo. Pastor Itwa Igodalo of Trinity House. Thank you for joining us. And then for special recognition, I'm told to introduce Promise Temitope Joshua. Promise Temitope Joshua, if you are in the hall, we welcome you. That's the daughter of Pastor T.B. Joshua. And then I also want to recognize specially Kikelomo Atondao, who is here. And then we also have with us veteran journalist Mike Awuyemfa. Mr. Mike Awuyemfa is here. Debola Williams is here. Debola Williams, I saw him around earlier. Mr. Sonny Rabo, another veteran broadcaster. You know, quite a number of veteran broadcasters here. Earlier on, I introduced Chief Bisi Olatulo. I introduced Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede. And then we also have in our midst Adewa. Chief Momodu has told me that, look, we should try and wrap this up latest 2 o'clock. And so this next segment we're going to, we will expect that people, you know, who are called to the podium we'll try to be mindful of time so that people don't get caught up in traffic on the island. So to address some of the issues about the energy question, the value chain, the way forward that Professor Batanaji has raised, and some of the issues that President John Mahama raised in his chairman's opening remarks. I would like first to invite Mr. Peter Obi, presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the 2023 general elections.
The chairman of the occasion and our dear president, my own, Your Excellencies, let me stand on all due and existing protocols. Well, mine is a very simple one. First is to say big congratulations of your birthday, Dele Mahmood. And thank you for what you did here, because until you said it, when we came in here, we were wondering what happened to this place. It's unfortunate that you have to be the one to change this place rather than Nigeria. So thank you very much for that contribution. He's the one who changed the carpet and everything. That's how Nigeria works, lack of maintenance. So it's important that it's noted. And thank you for showing that we need to maintain a place. Because, like you said, you shouldn't have been the one doing it. We must learn to maintain before we build a new one. We should stop doing new one until we finish the existing ones. Number two, I thank the guest lecturer for what you did and what you said. Thank you. When the president of Ghana said they're generating and distributing 5,000 megawatts, I was wondering, Ghana with 1/7 of our population probably generates and distributes more than us. I was doing the calculation and we're discussing with Governor Duke. We must declare emergency in power. And the way to go is very simple. Embedded power, and insist on gas supply. We have gas. We have it all over the place. I do not think, yes, we need the dollars, but I think making Nigeria more productive and pulling our people out of poverty, especially in the north, will give us far more value and dollars than focusing on exports. I think it's time to declare emergency. Geometric has shown.
Okay, very quickly, as I said, we're trying to save time. May I invite to the podium Senator Dr. Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, presidential candidate of the NNPP in the 2023 elections, former Senator of the Federal Republic, former Governor of Kano State.
Our royal fathers here present, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by thanking Almighty God for giving us this opportunity to be here, and also it's an opportunity to congratulate our brother, our friend, Dele Mahmood, for attaining this age. I say on behalf of all of Chairman of the occasion, the former president. Because of his living in Kano, he speaks Hausa more than many of us. So it's a pleasure meeting you here once again, and I thank the celebrant for giving us this opportunity to meet our friends and brothers from across Africa. Guest speaker, thank you. We have been enlightened. In fact, if there was time, I had wanted you to tell us more about your experience of the power generation and distribution in Aba. And it will be a good opportunity, especially for businessmen and women, not only in Nigeria, but across the world, to emulate the good work that you have done. We need many, many more of Professor Naji in this country. With him, I'm sure this country would achieve much more. Let me at this point say that especially the Governor Ocean is here to say that the importance of electricity cannot be overemphasized. And that was why when I was governor in Kano, I selected 2 out of 23 earth dams that we have in Kano and installed some equipment, and I'm happy to say that we were able to set up the power generation in Kano on Chalawa Gorge and Tiga dams, producing or potentially to produce 35 megawatts. We completed the job in 2015. And I'm happy to say that I left $43 million in our account for the incoming governor to do the distribution. Of course, not much was being done, but I'm sure our governor now, Abba Kabir Yusuf, will complete. You are laughing as if you knew that we couldn't find the 43 million naira when we came back. So Governor Adeleke should look at, and all other governors for that matter, should look at the possibility of generating power, because it's not a matter of only federal government alone. We have to put all our heads and hands together to ensure that there is adequate and, of course, enough electricity in this country. For purposes of time, I want to say to celebrant once again, congratulations, and we wish you many more years of productive services to our nation. Thank you, and God bless you.
Senator Rabiu Kwankwaso there. Thank you very much indeed. We're still trying to manage time. Let me call Chief Kola Karim, Chairman of British American Tobacco, Costain, and others. Chief Kola Karim, please.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to stand on all existing protocol. First and foremost, I would like to say congratulations to our brother, Chief Dele Momodu, for his birthday. The topic is a very important one when we think of Nigeria, think of Africa, and think of where this continent of Africa is going. If you think about politics, connect the nexus with energy, you talk about strength, then when we connect that to what the possibilities are, it's endless. We had the chairman of the occasion talk about energy and Nigeria leading the pack. We had Professor Bat in Nigeria talk about the power of unveiling that strength in the character of what Nigeria could be. And let me connect this. If Nigeria puts the directed investment in building up our gas reserves and gas resources, Nigeria will be a standard power in the forefront of what President Mahama said as a leading light in Africa. Why? If you connect this, West African gas pipeline is already built. If we extend that, as they're proposing to do, to go all the way to Morocco, connecting to Spain, the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline connecting through the Sahara, again, through African nations into Europe. If we go to the east, connecting through Central African Republic, going down south, imagine unleashing 206 TCF. That is production of gas volumes for over 50 years. Imagine what that would do to 54 countries on this continent. Another strength we must think about, and this is what I'm going to leave all of us with. If we see Russia with the geopolitical situation in Europe, the Nord Stream 1 and Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, Russia was selling $500 million of gas per day into Europe. Just think about that connectivity and the strength of what President Mahama said and what our discussant leader said, where Nigeria could be in the forefront of driving Africa's growth. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief Kola Karim. Again, very quickly, I'd like to acknowledge the presence in our midst of Mr. Olatunji Ayola and also Kunle Bakare. Kunle Bakare is a publisher of Encomium. Now, next to take the podium, I invite Mr. Donald Duke, former governor of Cross River State.
Chairman, Your Excellencies, Your Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Dele, congratulations, Roy. Congratulations on your birthday. Let me share a story with us, and you can contextualize it as you may. In 1985, I was a young intern in a law firm in Washington, D.C. called Baker and Hostetler. My immediate boss, a lady, late Mrs. Betty Murphy, was Secretary of Labor under Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. And one afternoon, she invited me to her office, and in a rebuking manner asked me a question: what is wrong with Nigeria? I was barely 23 years old, so I didn't understand what she talked about, but I just felt that everything was wrong with Nigeria at the time. She said she had just come back from the White House and had a meeting with the Chief of Staff to President Reagan, and they were very upset with Nigeria. They had proposed building a trans-African pipeline from Nigeria's Niger Delta through Niger into Algeria to Europe to forestall Soviet gas. It was the politics of gas, and we're talking about leadership here. I thought it was a brilliant idea. He talked about the Niger Delta. At that time, I didn't even understand what the Niger Delta was all about. But it was going to be paid for totally by the Western world. We were not going to, all they wanted from us was agreement, and they would do it. And from there, we could tee off gas to distribute to the rest of the country. But we gave a condition. And the condition was the United States will have to pull out of South Africa. She said it was a very stupid thing for us to do, and I agree. That you first get what you want. You know, like in the aircraft, you wear your mask before you look after others. And she said, no one gives the United States conditions. She reminded me that at the Bay of Pigs, where there were missiles, Soviet missiles facing the United States. There were also NATO missiles in Turkey facing the Soviet Union at the time. But the condition the Russians gave was, of course, you take out your missiles from Turkey and we'll take out our missiles from Cuba. The Americans agreed, but on condition that you do not tell the world that we obliged you that. It would have made more sense if we had agreed, and would have had a lot more leverage if we had agreed to allow the pipeline go through. Today it's a difficult situation because you're going to go through Niger. Niger is fully aligned with Russia today. I do not think they would even allow that to happen. But this is a nation that at one point were flaring 2.5 billion cubic feet of gas daily. That's an equivalent of 25 million liters of diesel. You think of it, for over 40 years we were flaring, burning 25 million liters of diesel. Talking about in the abundance of water. The fool is thirsty. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Where's that music coming from? Thank you very much, Mr. Donald Duke. You know, sometimes these DJs, if you don't call them to order, they... Okay, thank you, Mr. Donald Duke, former governor of Cross River State. Okay, now, before we go to Ife, I see Dr. Ephraim Faloi is in the hall. Thank you for coming, sir. And Consul General of the South African High Commission and his wife, both of them are also here. My colleague, Kaudi Akintemi, I see you. Thank you for coming to support Bob Deal. Well, let me now call on the Onirisha, Oni Adimula, His Royal Majesty Adeyeye Ogunwusi, Oni of Ife Ojaja II.
Your Excellencies, the celebrant of today, our dear brother, I think I see you more as Nigerian than even Ghanaian. The elders that are here, the political leaders of their country, at least I've seen two here, the Kakwansia movement and our amiable Tsunami from Labour Party. Please give all of them a resounding round of applause. I even noticed something about the Kakwansia movement. Their logo, the red and white, I looked through his shoe today. I saw that it's actually indeed red and white. But I looked around, maybe distinguished Senator Tokumbo Afikuyomi, part of APC, that's his hair. But I'm very happy that this hall is indeed all-party affair of their country. Our nation is way bigger than any one of us, way bigger than any political party or anything that has to do with party affiliation. the day we all sit down to talk about our interest commonly as a nation, other than our selfish interests as individuals, things will be better for our dear country. We're stronger as a nation individually than us doing things very collectively. And that has been the problem of our dear nation. People came, spoke very briefly, aptly, straight to the point. They are leaders, both in the private sector and public sector. A lot of Nigerians can actually talk and talk about the solution of this problem, but what are we all doing? It's very important for us to know. We've been talking about gas abundance for a very long time. We've been talking about so many things in this country that are in abundance, that we can actually even extract, and we will not focus on dollar economy. But the truth be told, the day as a nation that we start doing things not individually, the day we realize that this country is bigger than all of us, a good example of the celebrant today, that you are bringing all political parties together, irrespective of your party affiliation, that we will realize that Nigeria is bigger than all of us, then we will be a better nation. For us to settle all these problems of energy is no rocket science. And that's the truth. It's because of our selfish interest. That's the reason why we've been having a lot of bottlenecks here and there. Selfish interest. So I want to appeal to each and every one of us. Talk is cheap. Enough of talking and talking and talking as a nation. Let us look at this nation beyond all of us, bigger than all of us, and let us jointly and collectively look at things that will be betterment, that will be in good structure and in a very futuristic manner that can better the lot of even generation yet unborn. On this day, I want to thank God Almighty for the celebrant's life. What you are doing, you have actually displayed selflessness that is very rare in our country by upgrading this all. Let each and every one of us pick our public utilities, whatever we can do. Government cannot do it all. Let us imbibe this culture, what the celebrant has actually done today. I want each and every one of us to give him a resounding round of applause. He bought new ACs and a new carpet and gave this place a very good uplift. So, as a nation, what are you doing? God bless you all, and God bless Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Royal Majesty. Now, I think we're doing well with time, but at this point, first, I saw Ayoani Shaun of HIP TV. Ayoani Shaun, thank you for coming. Who else is here? Well, the organizing team, Folusho Adiago, Otumba Sheyi, Orolugbagbe, Mike Effiong, Azu Arinze, great work. You guys have done very well. You can give yourselves a round of applause. The organizing committee. Thank you very much indeed. Now, at this point, we'll go into a segment called goodwill messages. And I'm going to invite a veteran journalist. You know, one of the things we're discussing today is journalism, public affairs. And the first person I would like to call on is Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede. Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede. Is she still around? She was sitting somewhere there. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. For many who grew up in the early 70s, 80s, you remember Bimbo Roberts until she became Bimbo Roberts Oloyede. And she has remained very active. At a point, she was reading news occasionally on Channels TV to show example of professionalism to the younger generation. Of late, she has moved on to other causes, promoting awareness about cancer. Good to have you here, ma'am.
Your Royal Majesty, Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I think Dr. Reuben Abati must have had some kind of sixth sense that I was about to leave. So he caught me, but it was for a good reason, and the good reason is our celebrant, Chief Dele Momodu. Well, it's a goodwill message, and I actually have nothing more than goodwill for him. I have admired him for a long time. He has been a good brother, a good friend, a good professional. The other day I sent him a message. I said, I wonder what your passport looks like. It just occurred to me, you know, when you think about all the places that he has been to, and I think of all the stamps, and I wonder whether we have more stamps than passports. But anyway, I want to congratulate him for the wonderful work that he has done over the years. I think he's one of the most consistent journalists that I can say we have in this country. He is also very professional, and he is a creative journalist. He sees opportunities to report and inform, to educate and entertain in virtually every situation in which he finds himself. I wonder sometimes whether he sleeps. And even when he's asleep, what kind of dreams does he have? Is it possible that the dreams are more than the reality? I'm not sure, but we need to congratulate him. We need to celebrate with him. We need to wish him God's continued guidance and protection and blessings. And I want to say publicly that I will probably never forget something that happened some years ago when both of us happened to find ourselves shooting a commercial for a particular product in South Africa. We were in Cape Town, and we got to the place, we got to the hotel, and we were sorting out our checking in and that sort of thing. And Chief Momodu said, Auntie, don't imagine you're going to pay for your hotel accommodation. Please, that's on me. So let me take this opportunity to say publicly, thank you very much. God bless you. And may your pockets be continually replenished in the name of Jesus. Happy birthday. See you again next year.
Okay, we're trying to keep faith with the 2 p.m. deadline. Okay, we're not doing badly. Thank you very much, Mrs. Oloyede. Well, I told you there are many veteran journalists here. Earlier on, I introduced Mr. Sonny Rabo. I introduced Mr. Michael Williamfa, Mrs. Bimbo Oloyede, Kunle Bakare. I think Kunle Bakare too has qualified to be called a general in the media profession. But it's not surprising that all the big journalists are here. But the next person I'm going to call is from a place called Igbajo, and he's a veteran. And he's not tired. He's still very active. And you know him, of course, Voice of Nigeria, Viscon TV, and this high chief of the media in Nigeria is polyglota. He can speak, only God knows how many languages. Mr. Bisi Olatilo, founder of Viscon TV.
May I please ask us to put our hands together for this gentleman here? Do you know that I had to finish watching you before I set out? You won't believe it. I do that every day. Well done, Ruben Abati. Now, the man we're celebrating today, I am only 70 years. The man is 64. And when he sees me, he goes down to greet me the way we do, to show respect for me. May God bless you, Dele. What do we say about Dele that hasn't been said here and will have to be said continuously? My prayer for you, please, just keep on the thing you'll be doing. You're just increasing by today. Now, Professor Pat Naji, congratulations for the revolution you have ignited that has brought power to the whole of Abia. I'm hoping that you'll ignite it to all parts of Nigeria. Now, ladies and gentlemen, of course you know that I present a program called BOS, which is just 1 hour a week on people's platforms. But like you heard my younger brother say a while ago, I run a 24-hour platform in the last 7 years. And you know that power is hardly there in Nigeria. So if I had been operating in another environment that has power in good supply, I wouldn't have been a big man today. And I know I'm speaking the minds of so many of us here. So, Dele, it's a birthday present we're giving to all of us. I have been in school here, I've learned so much, and I will pray along with it so that what this man is doing in Aba can be translated to all parts of Nigeria. May God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're almost drawing to a close. Just to remind us again that this was broadcast live on Arise TV, GH1, Pulse TV, News Central, and also Ovation TV. Now, to bring the occasion to a close, we have the chairman's closing remarks, and after that, Peko Momodu will give the vote of thanks. Chairman's closing remarks. President Mahama, please.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by commending our special guest speaker, who gave the keynote address, Prof, for what has been a very comprehensive analysis of the theme that was given. You took it from the broad perspective of the rest of the world, especially with regards to the transition that is taking place as a result of climate change, and then eventually you zeroed in onto Nigeria and West Africa. I think that your paper has ignited a lot of critical thinking about what the way forward is, and so I want to commend you very much. And I want to commend Dr. Peter Obi, Kwakwanso, Alaji Kwakwanso, and all the others who commented after, because your comments have enriched the paper that we just listened to. Dele and I come a long way back, and he was hounded out of Nigeria because of his political views, and he came and sought exile in Ghana. And so Nigeria's loss was Ghana's gain, because you lost a very intelligent and good son, and we gained, a very loyal brother. If there's one thing that I can say for Dele, is loyalty to his friends. If he believes in you and he accepts you, he stands by you through thick and thin. Him and I have gone through a lot of political storms because of his support for me. You can understand what the political climate is in Ghana, especially in election years. He came out strongly endorsing me and, touting some of the transformational things that I tried to do in infrastructure. And of course, he became the target of missiles coming from the opposition. But the kind of person Dele is. He is not shaken by any of such things. He's continued to be my friend, and he stood by me through thick and thin. When he announced this inaugural lecture, I was a bit afraid, because I thought that the time was quite short. But knowing who Dele is, he can always pull anything out of fire. And so I believe that this has been a very successful lecture. He is a person who is intellectual. He writes brilliantly. There are times I've been with him, and the deadline for his column is just hours away, and I wonder how he's going to meet that deadline. But somehow the next day on my phone, I see he has written the column and written it to perfection. And so to celebrate his birthday, he couldn't have given us a better present than instituting this inaugural lecture, which is going to be an annual affair. And I think that he couldn't have chosen a better topic than the issue of energy politics. And I believe that President Naji has done justice to that topic. And so I want to thank all of you and to say happy birthday to my friend and my brother, Dele Momodu. May God continue to prosper you, to bless you, to continue to do the things that you do, not only for friends like us, but also for our continent, Africa. Our moderator mentioned my special relationship with Nigeria, and Governor Kwakwanso mentioned that too. I also lived in exile for some time with my father after a coup d'etat in Ghana. And I lived in Kano, and that's how come I speak Hausa, proficiently. But aside from that, my stepmother comes from Offa in Kwara State, and so Kwara is my home state. And I lived with her for several years in Offa when we were in exile. And so I am the Are Atolashi of Offa Kingdom, bestowed on me by my Olofa of Offa. And that explains the special relationships that I have with Nigeria. We have elections coming up at the end of this year. I've been president before, and we had a very good relationship between myself and President Jonathan at the time. I believe that we're going to continue that close relationship and bring the two countries even closer together when we look at issues to do with energy, not only in terms of our mutual benefits for the two countries, but for the whole of the West African sub-region. I thank all of you very much. May God bless you, take everybody back home safely, and God bless Nigeria, and God bless Ghana. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, President John Mahama. Well, again, I thank all of you, all the people at the backroom end, led by Eddie Lawani, and the DJ, everybody, and also the Society of Engineers, as I said earlier on, who are here present. We'll take just two things. Pekomomodu, we give the vote of thanks, and after the vote of thanks, we'll all sing Happy Birthday song to Chief Dele Momodu. I think we've not been singing all day, but we can bring it to a close with a happy birthday chorus. Pekon Momodu.
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and you are indeed excellent and distinguished. From myself, on behalf of my dad and the rest of our family, I would like to humbly thank you all for joining us today on this great day of celebration. My dad is a man who continues to show a great love for Nigeria and for Africa. By joining us here today, whether you have come from near or from far, you have shown that his struggles have not been in vain and his efforts have not gone unnoticed. So we are very grateful to have had you here today. And once again, thank you very much indeed. I would also like to extend our thanks to the organizers, the staff behind the scenes, the ushers running up and down, making sure that everyone is comfortable, the media, who have continued tirelessly to capture this wonderful moment. And so thank you all. And just to wrap up, once again, Dad, happy birthday, and we hope to see many more. Thank you.
I think we all see why it's good to send your child to a good school. Anyway, at this point, we take the birthday song. Bob D will be seated. He will be seated. He is the birthday person. May we all rise and wish him a very happy birthday. Oh, okay.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
Good afternoon, I am Shade Uwe, and this is a news update. At least one person was killed in an explosion that occurred on Wednesday morning at a mosque in Garden Village, Gazawa, local government area of Kano State. Umar Sander, an Assistant Inspector General of Police in charge of Zone 1, said the victim was confirmed dead at the Muritala Muhammad Specialist Hospital in the state. Sander spoke when a delegation of security personnel, including the County Commissioner of Police and the Director of the Department of State Service, visited the explosion victims at the hospital.
This is an unfortunate incident. We have seen it. An individual going to the mosque with a locally prepared bomb and exploding it in the mosque. We have already arrested him actually, and he is making useful information to us. But from the interim investigations we have conducted so far, we got to know that it's not, and it has nothing to do with terrorism. It's never a terrorism case. This is what we want the public to know. It is just a minor family skirmish which arose from the distribution of an inheritance, which the person that detonated the bomb is said to be an aggrieved person that the sharing of the inheritance was not to his satisfaction, which is quite unfortunate.
Hundreds of Christians in Kaduna State, under the auspices of the Christian Solidarity Worldwide Nigeria, have staged a peaceful protest calling on the government at all levels for the immediate release of Leah Sharibu and other abducted school children still in the custody of bandits and other terrorists in the northern region and the country. So protesters held various placards with chanting songs of solidarity and inscriptions saying, "Free Leah Sharibu and other abducted girls now. Government secure our community and rescue the remaining Chibok girls now. Every child has the right to religion," among others. It should be recalled that Leah Sharibu and over 100 female students of Government Girls Science and Technical College, DAPCHI, were abducted by Boko Haram terrorists in 2018. The convener of the group, Reverend Yunuson Madu, says the protest aimed to commemorate the 21st birthday of Leah Sharibu and to draw the attention of the government to the fact that the girl is still with her abductors 7 years after she was kidnapped, noting that others were released but she refused to denounce her faith, which is why she was still held captive. He urged the government to do the needful as Nigeria is ebbing out and surrounded by insecurity, banditry, and kidnapping of all sorts of evil that must stop.
Nigeria is ebbing out. Nigeria is dying. We are almost surrendering to insecurity and bandits, kidnappers, and all sorts of evil people in our land. It is time to stop. Our children must go to school. We must stay safe in our homes. Our homes are no longer safe. Our roads are no longer safe. Government must come to terms with what is happening in the country.
Also, the Leadership Christian Association of Nigeria says the government must rise to its primary responsibility of securing its citizens, stressing the need to expedite action to end insecurity and safely rescue all abducted Nigerians.
In the afternoon, we are afraid to travel. Why? Because we can easily be kidnapped. In the evening, we're in our houses, we can easily be kidnapped. Before, when we're growing up, when we're tired, when we're sick of the city, what do? We run to the village. Now we have the villagers running to the cities. You know why? Because the cities are no more secured.
While some of the Christian community says children must attend school and stay safe in their homes, saying roads are no longer safe for Nigerians, noting that they voted for security and not insecurity.
It is the primary thing for the government to protect lives and citizenry. Therefore, we are calling on the federal government to please expedite actions on the release of Leah Sharibu. Not only Leah Sharibu, but every other person that is held in captivity. Nigeria is a peaceful country. Therefore, we will not allow any strangers to come back to Nigeria and destroy our country for us. Freedom for Lily and Daniel. Freedom for Lillian Dahlia. Freedom for Lillian Dahlia. Freedom for Alice Ngada. Freedom for the 16 kidnapping Gobingora. Freedom for everyone in captivity.
The House of Representatives has accused the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation of misleading the public on the cybersecurity levy imposed on Nigerians. This followed a motion of urgent public importance moved by Honorable Kingsley Chinda, who raised the alarm that the common man has no business with payment of levies, but rather the institutions under the second schedule. The House, as a result, used the opportunity to clear the air on the proposed levy by citing establishments involved, including GSM service providers, insurance companies, and banks, among others. So lawmakers therefore accused the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, as well as the Attorney General of the Federation, of misleading the public, as they concluded that no Nigerian is meant to be taxed under the Cybercrime Act.
This is the content of the law we made. In course of execution, do not tax Nigerians directly or indirectly.
Nigerians should be happy and be proud that is from the remittances of those institutions in the second schedule.
In their contribution to the debate, other lawmakers expressed fears that the new levy will directly or indirectly affect the common man if implemented.
For us to stand in this chamber and think or we believe that this levy is not going to fall on our citizens, we are deceiving ourselves. Come back to the issue of subsidy. We all assume that when you remove subsidy, it will end somewhere.
We are also in support that the citizens of the country should not be taxed in the course of doing that.
In a related development, the House was also divided over a motion to summon the National Security Advisor concerning the presidential air fleet on Wednesday. This is following an incident involving Vice President Kashim Shettima when the plane he was traveling in was forced to make a detour.
Mr. Speaker, since an issue has been raised, I will advise that the President should suspend using the presidential aircraft. If there is need, he can use either commercial or chartered aircraft. And another options, if that will also help Nigerians. If the President can travel by road, then Nigerians will have hope.
The motion, however, degenerated into a rowdy session as lawmakers spoke for and against it. But the Deputy Speaker, in his wisdom, prevailed on the mover to step down the motion while urging the Chairman, House Committee on National Security and Intelligence, to use his position to address the matter.
Nigerians should be happy and be proud that is from the remittances of those institutions in the second schedule.
We are also in support that the citizens of the country should not be taxed in the course of doing that.
Communities in Adamawa State have added sporting activities as part of measures to achieving unity and peaceful coexistence among communities that have hitherto been plagued by communal and farmers' herders crisis. In a football competition tagged Tapwa Unity Football Cup, 9 local government areas of Adamawa Southern Zone came together to curb the menace through football. Adamawa State Southern Zone has suffered a series of bloodsheds as a result of disagreement between farmers and herders over water resources or among communities over farmlands and boundaries. Organizers of the football competition believe that bringing fellow youths together to interact through the sporting activity will dissuade their minds away from crisis-related ventures. Mayo Belwa local government area defeated Dowaya area in a lone goal victory to clinch the third-place title. The finals, however, were between the Newman local government area and Lamode local government area, with the Newman team winning the cup in penalty shootouts after a 1-1 draw at full time. Captains of both teams spoke to newsmen.
Teammates, because they have given me a maximum support and we train hard. But this is how football is. At times you win and at times you lost.
Being a leader is not an easy thing to happen, but really I feel very happy because this is our dream. It was like after we came back from league, we have been training, like doing a lot of things just for this.
competition, unity. Clearly because of unity. Now, when you look at it, nobody is thinking about who is a Christian, who is a Muslim. Nobody is thinking about I'm from PDP, I'm from APC, I'm from Labour Party. Nobody is even discussing political party. Everybody is all about the team I am supporting. And I believe it's when there is unity that you find tolerance. So when there is tolerance, you will forbear, and then you see people trying to understand with each other. That's what we are trying to preach.
The special guest of honor and first-class monarch in whose domain the competition held, Sahama Bachama Homan, Dr. Daniel Shaga Ismaila commended the foresight of the youth for promoting peace through sports.
Abilities of some of these people rising to the national level at this point. All they need is a kind of small push and support, and it keeps them engaged. I'm very impressed when I see a group of youth gather to engage themselves in sports or in soccer, because besides developing these skills and using them to earn a living, it takes them away from vices. Once a young man is engaged in doing something, he will not have time for criminal activities and all these things. So I'm interested in all these things because of these factors. I like to encourage the young people to come up, and I like sports. As a matter of fact, I can come to this pitch every day and watch games here. But by virtue of my office, it is not possible to come every day. But I come every day, and I mark some young people here. You know, if you watch them when they start, you think they will not go anywhere. But if you look at the way they play, the skills they display, some of them are better than even some of the national players we have. Because
We'll now go for a commercial break, and when we come back, the news continues. Do stay with us.
Picture this. You're sitting at a table, ready to indulge in a mouth-watering meal. Stop. For many of us, it is hard to resist the temptation, especially when it comes to enjoying a juicy beef dish. But have you ever stopped to think about the impact of your food choices on the greater good? Our food choices have a great impact on others. The beef industry is one of the leading contributors to deforestation. As trees are cleared to make way for cattle ranching, it not only disrupts the delicate balance of ecosystems, but also contributes to climate change. We can make a difference with our choices. It does not mean we all have to become vegans overnight. Imagine enjoying fish and poultry a few times a week, indulging in beef just once a month, and filling our plates with plenty of plant-based goodness. Every little bit counts. And even small reductions in our intake can make a huge impact on the climate. By making smarter food choices, we're not only taking care of ourselves, but also the planet we call home. Remember, the choices we make today lead to a better tomorrow.
Welcome back. Now to news from other parts of Africa. A Rwandan court has rejected an appeal by a prominent opposition figure to have his previous convictions removed, disqualifying him from challenging President Paul Kagame in July elections. Bernard Ntaganda, 55, a fierce critic of Rwanda's iron-fisted ruler, had petitioned the High Court in Kigali in February in the bid to set aside convictions dating back more than a decade. He is the second opposition figure to be prevented from running in the July 15 election against Kagame, who is widely expected to win a new term in office. A three-judge panel voted against Ntaganda based on what it said was its failure to pay court fees of almost $82 related to the previous case against him. Ntaganda, a lawyer and founder of the PS Imberakuri party, said he had proved he had paid the fees, but that the court decision was not a surprising outcome. Ntaganda had also planned to stand against Kagame in 2010, but was arrested before the vote. And to news from outside Africa. The United Nations has launched an investigation into an unidentified strike on a UN car in Rafah that killed its first international staff in Gaza since October 7, and this is according to the spokesperson for the UN Secretary General. The staffer, a retired Indian Army officer named Vaibhav Kale, was working with the UN Department of Safety and Security and was en route to the European hospital in Rafah, along with a colleague who was also injured in the attack. Meanwhile, India's foreign ministry said its diplomatic missions were in touch with relevant authorities on the investigation and helping to bring home the remains. Report says Israel has been moving deeper into Rafah in southern Gaza, where more than 1 million people had sought shelter, and its forces pounded the enclave's north on Tuesday in some of the fiercest attacks in months. And in business, Nigeria's headline inflation rate increased from 33.20% recorded in March to 33.69% in April 2024. This was disclosed by the National Bureau of Statistics. The data represents a month-over-month increase of 0.49% points in the headline inflation rate, according to the Consumer Price Index report. Comparing year-on-year data, the inflation rate in April 2024 was 11.47%, points higher than in April 2023, where it stood at 22.22%. This indicates that the headline inflation rate has risen significantly over the past year. Now moving on to sports. Nationals under-17 men's team, Golden Eaglets, will begin their WAFU BU under-17 title defense in Ghana today against old foes Burkina Faso, the team that prevented them from reaching the FIFA Under-17 World Cup in Indonesia last year. Led by coach Nduka Ugbade at the last WAFU B tournament in 2022, the Eaglets beat Burkina Faso 2-1 to win the title, but the Burkina Bay prevailed when it mattered most at the 2023 Under-17 Nations Cup in Algeria, beating Nigeria 2-1 in the quarters to deny the 5-time world champions a World Cup ticket. The Eaglets game against Burkina Faso will take place at the Ghana University Stadium, Accra, by 4 p.m. today, before they take on Niger Republic on Sunday by 7 p.m. Nigerian time, and Togo on Wednesday by 5 p.m. Nigerian time as well. And that's the news update. For more stories, please follow us on Facebook, X, and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at Plus TV Africa and Plus TV Africa Lifestyle. You can also view us from Limex on limex.tv and Glow TV apps anywhere in the world. I am Shade Uwe. Many thanks for watching.
I will take you through this amazingness today.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Buki November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
It is not the hope of this feature to blame anyone for the never-ending tension between police and the citizens. However, it is certain that there is always a tension with most people when they approach a police checkpoint. Many factors are responsible for this tension, including not knowing what to expect or do, seeing the police as the enemy, or even being guilty of an infraction. Many issues that go wrong at a police checkpoint can be linked to lack of proper communication and understanding on the side of the police force and also on the side of the citizen. Here are some tips listed by the police force about comporting yourself at a police checkpoint. Endeavor to slow down your vehicle. It shows that you're not reckless. It also douses suspicion that you're a criminal and may want to speed off. Turn down the volume of your car stereo. Courtesy demands this. Besides, you are able to hear each other better. This simple act will help you win the confidence of the security operative. Keep your hands visible to avoid unnecessary suspicion or fear by the officers that you're attempting to bring out a gun or other harmful objects to attack them. Turn on the inner light of your vehicle while approaching the cops if at night. It readily sends an unspoken message that you have nothing to hide.
That's the nature of your job, officer. Don't worry. That's the nature of your job. Everything will be fine.
Be friendly and cheerful. Commend the officers, especially when you see them working under very unfriendly weather conditions such as rains and harsh Harmattan conditions, excessive heat, cold or sunshine. We know it's their job, but a little kind word from you will do a lot of good. Remember, when you smile at the mirror smiles back at you.
Officer will not come down. Let's see what you do. Don't mind this. We won't come down.
Endeavor to be polite when answering questions put to you by the officers. Don't dare or challenge an armed security man to a duel. Oftentimes, you hear people say things like, "Shoot me if you can." Note that this is a recipe for disaster. It is a very provocative and unnecessary call for war. So please, play safe, more so as you do not know the state of mind of the officer concerned. Also, don't go into a physical fight with an armed security officer. He may resort to the use of his weapon to defend himself. Avoid unnecessary arguments with armed security personnel. There are 1,001 ways to seek redress where you feel your rights have been infringed upon. Never try to touch an officer in an unfriendly manner. He may suspect you of trying to disarm him. If you're a regular traveler or road user, make sure you have the police emergency phone numbers of the route you operate. You never can tell when an emergency situation could arise and you need the police to come to your aid. Make sure you have all your relevant car papers and desist from actions or inactions that constitute either a criminal or traffic offense. Such infractions of the law provide a veritable grounds for possible charges and other forms of adversarial contact with the police or other law enforcement agencies, including unnecessary arguments. Don't give the impression that you're unhappy to see the officer on his beat or that he's wasting your time. But if you do have an emergency, politely inform the officer. Don't speed off while still being checked. Take note of the name tags, force or service numbers, personal description of weapon or patrol vehicle of the security officer, especially where the officers begin to conduct themselves in an unprofessional manner. Seek an audience with the most senior officer at the checkpoint if things are not working out smoothly. Politely insist to be taken to the police station if your complaint is not properly addressed.
In Nigeria, hundreds of female children get pregnant in their teen years. Teenage pregnancy is often regarded as a negative occurrence in recent times due to social stigma and other adverse consequences like dropping out of school. According to the World Health Organization, Every year, an estimated 21 million girls aged 15 to 19 years in developing countries become pregnant, and approximately 12 million of them give birth. Lillian Wama was 19 when she became pregnant, a reality that would turn her life around. Fear, anxiety, and worry became her constant companions.
I found out I was pregnant when I was in school, second year. I had very rough experiences. It was a very, very tough moment for me because I realized that whether I like it or not, my life has changed. And because I knew that I may not be able to control, how my life turns out from that point, I decided to be a girl for as long as I could be. So I tried not to talk about it. I kept it a secret. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I was highly distracted. It was obvious that I was no longer concentrating in class. But I still went to school. I still did all my, normal work. But it was really, really, really bad. It really affected my academics and, myself as a human being. Because the way society approaches or presents a single parent or a single mom or a pregnant girl, it's a totally different class. You're disrespected, you're insulted, you're abused, and you're supposed to get used to all that because, you put yourself in this situation or you found yourself in this situation. No matter what the story is, it doesn't matter anymore. So when I eventually had the courage to go for the test and sit down to see the result, I pretty much knew what to expect. But I sat there just to be sure, just to have some evidence, some paper evidence. And to go for this test, I had to buy a ring. Yeah, I bought a ring. I went for tests about 5 to 6 times and didn't have the courage to stay to see my result or to wait to give my specimen sample, blood sample, urine sample, whatever they wanted. And I was so naive at the time, I didn't know about pregnancy strips. Otherwise, I may have just done it in my bathroom, because it was embarrassing coming out as a student to sit in a lab to be tested for pregnancy, when you're not married. So I didn't know about pregnancy strips. I had a very naive, I was a very naive young girl then. Yeah, so I didn't know about that. And because I wasn't talking to anybody about it, nobody could advise me, okay, do pregnancy strips. I finally found the courage, gathered courage, went, sat, saw my results. I wore a ring, I bought a ring, I wore it from Malam. And I waited for my results. When it came, I looked at it and I smiled. And the lady said, congratulations. I said, thank you. I got up and I left. Throughout, when I stepped out of the lab, the first thing that happened to me was I was laughing and then I started crying.
She kept the news about her pregnancy from her family for 7 months. Lily says she couldn't face her mom. The moment of informing her dad was a tough one.
So it was the point where the baby bump started showing that I knew that, look, if you don't tell them now, they're going to find out and it will be more embarrassing. So I had to call my dad and invite him to come and see me. So he drove 9 hours down to visit me. And I broke the news. And the first thing he asked me was, are you HIV positive? And I said no. And then he broke down in tears. He started crying. I had never seen my dad in tears until that day. And I was scared. I was scared because it was just me and him in his car. And then he drove off. He drove me to my uncle's house to tell them that, to find out if they knew that I was pregnant. Because this uncle of mine lives in the town where my school was. So, and he handed me over to him when I resumed school. So I would go there every weekend to spend the weekend with them, and they didn't know I was pregnant the whole time. So when he took me there, and he asked him, so your daughter is pregnant and you didn't tell me? And he said, how? And he said, yeah, she's pregnant. And you didn't tell me. And he said he didn't even know about it. So it was it was devastating for everyone. They also saw me as a very responsible girl, and they were surprised. And I was in their house every weekend, so it was even really shocking. And this was a whole family, wife, husband, and other relatives that lived with them at the time. So it was shocking to them that the whole time, I was coming and they didn't know. So, but we all had to deal with it, and I made my dad promise not to tell my mom, because I know that she's softer. My dad, it was difficult for him, but it would be more difficult for my mom. So, and being a woman, I knew that she would want to maybe move in with me, or want me to come back home, or she would want something just to make sure that her eyes are on me, that I am fine. So it's either she moves in with me in school, or she takes me with her back home, or they move me somewhere and she stays with me. Like, she would not take her eyes off me until I have the child. That's the kind of mom I have. So I wanted to keep it away from her for as long as I could. So I and my dad agreed not to tell her until it was a date to my delivery date. So he brought her all the way down to where I was a day to my delivery date. And she expected to see me, but she didn't know I was, pregnant. So she kept calling me on the phone. "Oh, where are you? I thought you'd be waiting for me already since I told you I was coming." I said, "Yes, I'm writing exams." And I was writing exams, but I had just finished my exams then, my second year exams. So I told her I was writing exams, that I'll be back when I'm done. That same day, she called again in the night. I said, "Yes, I finished very late and it's risky for me to be on my way to where you are now. So let's make it tomorrow." And she agreed. But by morning, they already, invited the people who would break the news to her and all of that. It was mainly her siblings and, people that she's closest to. So they came, had the meeting, told her I was pregnant. And I was scared. I couldn't face her. I wasn't even in the house at the time. I left. I went to the hospital. I stayed away, for as long as I could. So when they were bringing her back to the house where I was not in the house, and everybody was calling my phone. "Oh, where are you? Where are you?" I said, "I'm in the hospital." They said, "What's going on?" I said, "I just went there to see the doctor. I'll be back." But when the doctor eventually saw me, he said I wasn't good enough to go home. So he kept me there through the night. And when they got the news, they all came to the hospital. My extended family, everybody came. So the doctor told them I can't go home that night. My mom insisted she would stay with me. So they brought her to my room, and she saw me. Her eyes were swollen. She had a rosary in her hand. She had cried so much. So she looked at me. I greeted her. She didn't answer me. And then a few minutes later, she asked me, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yes." And that was all she said. She didn't say anything again until about 8 hours later, when I was in labor, around 5 a.m. And she had to call the nurses to tell them I was in labor. So I didn't see her from that point. Okay, before she left, she told me not to scream. That if I scream this once, I would keep screaming whenever I'm in labor for any other child. So that was the only thing she said, and then she left. They moved her to a different room, moved me to a different room. And the next time I saw her was about 3 hours later, when the child was born. And she was already carrying the child, so she was happy. And I think that was enough consolation for her, because, seeing that the child was healthy and I came out safe, no complications, normal delivery, because there was this thing about normal delivery, so I think that was enough consolation for her. And although she still had crisis after that, but for that time, she was fine.
For a young schoolgirl, abortion popped up as an option. She had several fears for her future.
I kept my child because I wanted to keep it. I didn't want to get rid of him, because I knew from my background, from the kind of life that I have lived till that point, that if anything happened, I would not even think of getting rid of it. It was difficult, having to deal with all these fears, depression, uncertainties. It was really difficult.
After she told her parents, she found more strength to face schooling and expecting a child. Pregnancy-related school dropouts have become a matter of public concern in the world today. Girls who dropped out of school due to pregnancy usually never returned to school to complete their education after childbirth. The opportunities for social economic advancement are limited. Olanrewaju Jeboda is a school principal at Victoria Island Senior Secondary School. She shares how female students are expected to abandon their education should they become pregnant.
They ask the boy to come back. The girl cannot go back because even during suspension, the pregnancy is growing. And you know, it depends on parents that we allow for termination. It's dangerous. The girl could die. So it's the girl that should always say, zip up. I'm not ready. When I am ready, I will be ready. So government frown about pregnancy, teenage pregnancy, because it's even dangerous.
The Guardian Counselor Department of a secondary school is charged with the responsibility of counseling adolescent schoolgirls who are likely to battle issues like this.
A teenager who is pregnant, I would definitely make her know the consequences of her action. I would give her various options. Definitely abortion is not an option. I would encourage her, she should have the baby. Abortion, like I said, is not an option for her. And after having the baby, she should learn to abstain.
According to medical science, a huge challenge with teenage pregnancy is the psychological trauma.
Okay, so the medical state of a teenage girl who gets pregnant is classified as high risk. High risk because the chances of losing her life in course of delivering a baby is higher than the chances of both people coming out alive. So it's usually termed high risk. What high risk means that the attention is higher and the focus is higher. And of course, the delivery pathway would have to be modified or adjusted to fit that particular child. So it's not something to celebrate or give an applaud to, but if it happens, then it has to be managed very, very carefully. And so that means if her antenatals are going to be the regular antenatals, which are 4 weekly in the first trimester, for them, you can have as much as 2 weekly. And of course, there are going to be regular scannings to find out the growth rate of that child and of course the medical condition of that child.
And pregnancy itself comes with a whole lot of issues. So there is self-neglect. The child is uneducated, unaware. She doesn't know what to do as a pregnant person. There is parental neglect because our society frowns at teenage pregnancy or people getting pregnant before being married.
And according to Lillian, depression and societal stigma are synonymous with teenage pregnancy in Africa.
Because of the way society disrespects or society represents the societal representation of a teenage mom, when a teenager finds out she's pregnant, most times because of fear and the kind of life that they stand to face if they are not strong enough to overcome it, some of us commit suicide, and the suicide rate is really high. It's high, and people are not talking about it. They're not talking about it because we are teenage moms and we are looked at as second-class citizens. I don't know why, but if a normal random young girl commits suicide, even if it's because her boyfriend cheated on her, it will make it, to the internet, and it will trend, and everybody will talk about it and talk about it from different angles. But when a teenage mom does that, you hardly even hear the news. We just move on every day, acting as if teenage moms don't commit suicide. But these things happen every day. They happen every day. And these kids are left, either taken to the motherless baby home or abandoned with the parents, or even taken back to the father, if the father can be traced, and abandoned there. And then a lot of us will hide it and sell the child. Hide it, nobody will know you had a child, sell the child, and go on with life. And so long as you do all these things and nobody finds out, you are the moral one. Nobody sees you as, nobody looks at you in a way. But once you are seen pregnant, once everybody has seen you pregnant, they've seen the child, forget it. Except you stand firm and overcome. It's a struggle, serious struggle. So a lot of us commit suicide, and last year I got news of 3 that committed suicide. I didn't know them personally, but I wish that I got to at least converse with them.
Lillian has now moved to Lagos, where she holds beautiful dreams of being married someday and building a lovely home with her husband. But the chances of dating and marriage for women who were teenage mothers in Africa are very slim, she shares.
You are stuck between either settling for somebody that you don't really like, you know, or you just settle. You just settle. You're either choosing between a widower, a divorcee, a man who has issues with, whose family, you know, who has issues having a male child, you know, maybe in the family or something. So they want to adopt your child and marry you, so that if for any reason they're not able to get another male child, your child is automatically theirs. You know, so there are so many conditions. So your mind is conditioned to believe that, look, you have to settle though. You don't know if you will get a better deal. So there are always conversations like on social media from time to time. You see people post things like, have you ever dated a single mom? Will you ever date a single mom? What do you think? And then people are reacting in so many ways. As a single mom, when you go through such threads, you are, if you're not strong, you actually fall into depression. You know, because people just go all blunt. And I'm not saying anybody should paint it, but it's not fair to talk about something you know nothing about.
Lily is now 27. Her baby Munachi is now a cute young boy. She finds joy each day, embracing not just her son, but her decision to keep the pregnancy to full term. Unlike Lillian, there are over 100,000 adolescent pregnant girls in developing countries who would think abortion is an option. Plus TV Africa went seeking the right answers on abortion from these medical experts.
When is abortion an option in a teenage pregnancy? When that teenager is honestly small for age. So you can see a teenage girl at the age of 13 weighing 30 to 40 kg. That teenager is even at risk. And then when the baby is also abnormal. Of course, when you do your fetal scanning, you can find out that that baby is abnormal and will cause problems because the genetics is not even mature enough to allow for a right baby. So that baby or that conception can be aborted, but then the pregnancy can last till term if all of these are right. You must remember that in recent times, many teenagers look older than their ages, and so he can still carry a pregnancy. What I'm trying to say is that the only time teenage pregnancy, teenage abortion, or abortion in teenage pregnancy is allowed is when that girl is too at risk, especially when her weight is not enough to carry that pregnancy, or that pregnancy is already a genetic misnomer. Then you want to abort the baby. And then if you check the consequences, for an example, delivering that child could cause what we call fetal fistulas, vaginal urethral fistulas. All of these consequences are there in abortion. These are some things you must also check. Bleeding is one of the consequences in abortion. So it's not also a good option to just fall back on. All right, but when you weigh the chances of allowing that woman alive, then you want to try the abortion if she is too small for age to carry pregnancy. Are there medical effects for aborting a pregnancy for a teenage mom? Yes, there are. One of them is fistula, and that happens a lot in the northern part of Nigeria. You have cases where women can no longer, there's urinary incontinence. It's called vesicovaginal fistulas. Okay, another one is bleeding, postpartum hemorrhage, post-bleeding, post-abortal hemorrhage till death. And you must understand that in teenagehood, blood volumes are not as massive as blood volumes in adults. So it's possible to bleed in the process of trying to abort a pregnancy. The third one is uterine rupture. You see, the uterus at that level is also friable. And so any instrumentation can rupture or penetrate and cause damage in the uterus. So you are also very careful about that. The uterus are very friable. And then, of course, the vaginal pathway is not fully established, even though there was some degree of sex.
Risk of preeclampsia, that is hypertension in pregnancy. And of all these, you can see that teenage pregnancy poses a risk to the person, both medically, psychologically, and otherwise.
Okay, am I saying that teenagers cannot have a normal birth? Yes, 80%. It's been seen that 80% of them cannot have a normal birth, except that teenager is on the big side genetically. That's from family history, is on the big side. If not, from the initial, you should just plan a cesarean section.
With Nigeria's youthful population accounting for at least 43.69% of its almost 200 million population, with women and girls accounting for 99.13 million persons as of the 2019 World Bank statistics, how aware are the teenage girls of teenage pregnancy?
Teenage pregnancy, from my own understanding, when a teenager who is not ready to get pregnant. If I get pregnant for me, I'm going to keep the pregnancy.
Keep the child, tell your parents about it, and seek advice from a respected adult.
Teenage pregnancy is when someone gets pregnant.
Teenage pregnancy is getting pregnant at a teenage age, like unwanted pregnancy, while after engaging in premarital sex.
Are teenage boys also aware of teenage pregnancy?
If a teenage girl gets pregnant, I personally think that the teenager should keep the child, but give it to the appropriate authorities or people who are capable of supporting and raising the child. Then maybe they can come and collect it at a later date when they themselves are able to take care of the child.
Proper sex education can prevent teenage pregnancy. Teenagers being taught to speak up when they've been sexually abused can prevent teenage pregnancy. And parents being more supervisive of their children to prevent any form of abuse taking place can prevent teenage pregnancy.
We catch up with a few Nigerian parents who say they would not abandon their pregnant teenage girls.
If my child come back home with pregnancy, I will feel bad, but at the end of the day, I will not chase her away. I will want to sit her down and ask her some questions about the pregnancy and some other things, which I will know the next step to take from there.
Come home with your pregnancy. You have to present the man that pregnant you, so that I will go and see the person. So, in a case, he will follow the man, because I didn't give my parents unwanted pregnancy.
No, abortion is not good, because at times, some abortions at times may occur to maybe damage of the womb and some other things. So I don't think abortion is good for a teenage girl.
As teenage pregnant mothers daily seek to overcome the odds, break the glass ceilings and achieve excellence across various fields, it would only be appropriate for families, community structures and government to come to the aid of more vulnerable pregnant teenagers across Africa. If not for anything, at least to meet the Goal 1, no poverty, Goal 2, zero hunger, and Goal 3, good health and well-being of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
Lagos, the commercial capital of Nigeria with 351,861 hectares of land, is the authentic home of every tribe and tongue in Nigeria. The state, though small in landmass, is controversially the most populous state in the country. One of the neighborhoods in the state is Obalende, located in a Tiosa local government area. The area is strategically a historic site because before the relocation of administrative capital from Lagos to Abuja, it was the seat of power of the military head of state, the Dodon Barrack. Historically, a Royal West African Frontier Force, predominantly Hausa men, were initially camped on the land where the famous King's College is situated. Then there was a need for the use of the land, and the Oba of Lagos was said to have pressured the governor of Lagos to resettle the Hausa men and sold the land in what is now Obalende to the British colonial masters. After resettlement in the purchased land, the Royal West Africa Frontier Forcemen named the place Ibiti Obalewade, which translates to the place where the king drove us to. Obalende, though crowded, is famous for its nightlife and for its suya sport, with a junction popularly called Suya Junction. For ease of administration, former governor of Lagos State, Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, created additional 37 local council development areas from the existing 20 local council areas. So the current Obalende is carved out under Ikoyi Obalende Local Council Development Area. Ikorodu town is another historic location in Lagos, located in the northeast area of the state along the Lagos Lagoon and shares a boundary with Ogun State. Currently, the town houses Ikorodu local government area and 5 local council development areas. Kabiru Shotobi is the king of Ikorodu, traditionally known as Ayogbunre of Ikorodu, who ascended the throne from October 24, 2015. The name Ikorodu came about from people whose ancestors descended from the Remo stock of Yoruba tribe who came to settle on a plateau and named it Ikorodu, a shortened word from Oko Odu, which literally means Odu, farm. The current metro area population of Ikorodu in 2021 is 989,000, a 5.44% increase from 2020. Trading, farming, and manufacturing are some of the things Ikorodu is known for. Ikeja is the capital of Lagos State, formerly called Akeja. It was named after a deity of the Awori people of Ota, who originally settled there. The area was invaded for slaves until the mid-19th century. Ikeja, an abbreviation meaning of Ikorodu and Ekpe joint administration, was coined by colonial administrators for ease of administration. It is the official seat of the governor of the state, where the state secretariat is also located. It is also where the domestic and international airports are located. Its population as of 2006 census is 330,196. Ikeja is home to one of West Africa's largest gadget markets, popularly known as Computer Village, and home to a shopping mall known as Ikeja City Mall, which is the biggest mall in Lagos mainland and also has a cinema. These are some interesting places that make Lagos a world-class destination.
Welcome back to the program. You're watching Sports Business with Orufo Ezaga, and the station is Plus TV Africa. Now, we're going to talk about football, and the emerging trends in our football that I find particularly intriguing, right? today in the MPFL, we have 3 private clubs. There is Remo Stars, there is Sporting Lagos, and then there's Doma United. Now, you guys we have all, commentators in Nigeria have always said, we need private investors to take over clubs in Nigeria, because there's too much, there are too many government clubs, and that's affecting professionalism and the like. Now, if you follow Nigerian football, you find that in the second tier of Nigerian league, the NNL, the Nigerian National League, we have come to the end of the season, sort of, but there's a playoff to be had sometime in July, involving 8 clubs, right? Of these 8 clubs, 5 of them are privately owned. Now, the most interesting thing, especially for those of us in Lagos, is that 3 of those clubs are from Lagos, which means that by next season, not only are we going to have more privately owned clubs in the league, there's the possibility, the very welcome possibility, that we're going to have multiple Lagos clubs in the NNL, which is going to be great for business, because the more clubs we have in Lagos in the MPFL, the more business, the more professionalism, the more fun, and all of that. Joining me now in the studio is the co-founder and CEO of one of those clubs, Inter Lagos. He's Lanre Vigo, and he's here to speak about the NNL experience and how he thinks his club can become one of the elite clubs in Nigeria from next season. Hello, Lanre. You're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Well, Lanre, I shouldn't have this conversation with you. You're sitting there, you are wearing Inter Lagos. Why didn't you get me one to wear? You don't want me to help your club.
So they don't say you're biased.
So that, smart one. Okay, so tell me, the Super 8 is coming. Yeah, 5 clubs, private clubs, are going to compete, which means that it's going to be fireworks. And then there are 3 government clubs. For me, it shows a trend that it looks like the private clubs are beginning to assert themselves, and they're pushing the government clubs to decide. Do you see that as a possible trend?
Certainly. I mean, it goes to show that the private clubs have better structure. We actually care about what, it's not just some side project. We're 100% invested in what we're trying to do. So, I mean, it goes to show there are 5 of us. I'm not sure this has happened before, so it's fantastic. It's a great time for football in Nigeria.
It is actually a great time for football. Before you came on, I told you to send me videos. You didn't until very late. But here's the thing: I got a couple of videos from what's going on in the NNL, a competing club, for instance, and they did. When I saw the goals that were scored, I said to myself, why is this not big news in Nigeria? Do you understand? Here today, people are talking about how, the title race in England and the like. We have a title race in Nigeria that is really, really tight. And then we have a new development happening in the NNL that's going to change Nigerian football in the next season. How come we're not talking about this? I'm sure that, before your response is done, we're going to have a clip of the video. I put it up on my Twitter page, and people were really astounded by what the quality that they saw. What's going on? You guys are playing great football. Are you getting commensurate support, and are your fans reacting to you, for instance?
Oh yes, certainly. I mean, because our football is one of the best. I'll say one of the best in the country. Or I would even say it's the best in our league.
That's Inter Lagos.
Yes, Inter Lagos football. Okay. And even just generally in the league, the quality of football has been very good. I've been surprised. It's my first season in the NNL, so what I've seen, I'm very, very impressed. But we have to carry the news ourselves. We have to make ourselves relevant. So we just have to keep playing good football, showcasing this football on social media. And as you can see, some of these goals, some of these games have been talked about on social media. So eventually, I'll say the general news media people would also catch on to this and see that, look, there's some great football going on. We need to make noise about our football.
Okay, so tell me, Lanre, from the business perspective, how well are you guys doing? Do you have sponsors? Are you making inroads in corporate Nigeria, for instance? Are there people willing to support your dream? And you know, a very laudable venture that you guys are into.
Currently, we don't have any sponsors, but we've done that purposely because we wanted to show people this is what we can do. So when we get to the table and we show them this is what we can do, this is what we can do, this is what we've done, then we have like more bragging rights to ask for more money. So definitely this season we've been able to show people that look, we're the real deal, we know what we're doing, so we need your support either via sponsorship or by investing. And I'll say we've done quite well this season. In fact, before the last game of the season, we've had a few conversations with a few sponsors and investors that are like, hey, we like what you guys are doing. But we just told them, look, just hold on. Wait till the actual season is ready, and then we can talk.
Tell you what, Larry, if I was a brand manager at this time, I'll be thinking about you guys. You know, club owned by young CEO, you know, young middle class supporters as well as community support and stuff like that. Do you get? So sometimes I don't think you have to wait. The brands have to wait until you have done the job. They have to just be a bit more innovative and look at the environment and say, this is an emerging trend. Let me tap in before, you know. But tell me about your chances in the Super 8, because it can change your business profile and your business status.
Certainly.
So what are your chances, you think?
I think we have a very, very good chance.
Why would you say that?
Because we have a very, very good squad. And our players, I mean, we have some players. We have a player who played in the playoffs last season. So definitely his experience is going to be very, very much needed. He's going to be the one that will guide the rest of the players. That's Femi Oladende, who was at Sporting Lagos last season. He's with us again. So I feel, and with the sort of coach we have, the sort of football that we play, I feel like on a good playing surface, because I mean, it's not just going to be any type of surface we're playing on an actual very good pitch. And honestly, our boys are fantastic on a good pitch.
So how do you finance the club at this time? Is it solely from your pocket?
I'll say from our pockets, and we also have some investors that believe in the project. So we're really grateful to them for helping us through this season.
You know what? Look, if you're watching this program and you're in advertising or marketing or brand management, you know, I think sports is changing in Nigeria, and it is changing because of the likes of Mr. Larry Vigo here and what he's doing with Inter Lagos. You don't have to wait until they get to the level of playing at the FIFA Club World Cup before you now start identifying with their success. Now is the time you plug in to support. That's what I believe. You know, I don't believe that you have to wait for some fancy thing, because what you guys have in terms of funds, you know, to compete with the rest of the world, you don't have anything. It's like taking a toothpick to a gunfight. You know what I mean? Certainly. People have to step in at this point in time to back what you guys are doing. But what do you think about the chances of the Lagos teams in the Super 8? And what do you see of Lagos having multiple teams in the NPFL next season?
So certainly there's going to be at least one Lagos team guaranteed in the Premier League. What we're hoping for is that two Lagos teams.
Which team is guaranteed?
Inter Lagos. Lagos.
Okay.
By God's grace. But certainly there's one Lagos team that will definitely be in the Premier League. I'll be joining Sporting Lagos. The hope is the two of us make it out of that group into the Premier League. Like I always tell people, Lagos is like London in terms of when you compare it Premiership wise, we should have the most teams in the Nigerian Premier League. So it's a fantastic time. This is only going to spur more teams to emerge. More private owners who also, in fact, are already talking about starting their own football team. So I was saying in 5 years' time, we will have maybe like 6-7 Lagos teams in the Premier League.
Tell you what, Larry, actually one of the biggest investors in this country, running one of the biggest investment banks, called me and said, you know, he was thinking of owning. even if it's part ownership of a club. Do you understand? So yeah, I agree with you when you're saying that people are going to start coming into the football space and owning clubs, which means that Nigerian clubs are going to be stronger, and they're going to be a lot more competitive.
For sure.
How are you guys ready when the big rollers, Tony Elumelu is thinking of setting up a football club. When the Tony Elumelus move into football in Nigeria, what's going to be your strategy as Inter Lagos? How are you going to fight such muscle?
We're not scared. We want them to come. We only make the league better. We want a more competitive league. So whatever is going to make football in Nigeria, football in Lagos better, we're happy. We're okay. So I'm not worried.
But isn't that going to be like they're going to come in like the PSGs and the like, and then you guys would have
no problem.
You don't worry.
We're not worried. We have a good structure at Inter Lagos. Our recruitment, which was fantastic, and I tell you, we didn't. Some people might think our recruitment was 100% everything. We didn't do it. I don't think we did it as well as we wanted to. But look at what it's produced. So when we do have the chance to do it properly, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
Okay, internationally, clubs make the most money from